And welcome Maheshji, and thanks for joining us in person. I know it's a long journey from Belgaum here, not exactly in terms of 100 kilometers that you mapped, but also in terms of your. So Mahesh leads Pragati Engineering in Belgaum, and a very important emerging sector CNC machines and their accessories is what he is specialist at, and he will be talking much about how manufacturing sector is going to be contributing a lot. So we have an edutech person here who is an entrepreneur. We have a person from manufacturing sector, and would wish you to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Good evening to one and all, and thank you so much for having me here. It's really an honor to be in presence of Ms. Dhanada, Mr. Raj, for what all they've accomplished so far. I'm an engineer by profession, and I lead Pragati Engineering Belgaum Private Limited. We are more into accessories for machine tool manufacturing in an old age economy, you could say, or the old economy as it's slightly being said. We are part of Pragati Automation in Bangalore, again, who do the similar kind of work. So that's pretty much what we do so far. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'll take liberty in adding that maybe you gave a perspective about old age economy. Why was it that we were always last whole decade trying to avoid China manufactured goods and trying to bring all the China manufacturing back to India? That's a thought that.
Well, I would like to add here, well, definitely China was manufacturing, but I would proudly say that we have been manufacturing in China and we have been exporting to China as well. Great. So that's something which we have been doing for the past almost 5 to 7 years.
Great. So, teasing brings out that fact of life. Yeah. Bikes, if you see, China could never dominate India. We'll have a lot of off-session discussions probably on this.
Definitely.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
We are very honored to be having you here.
Thank you so much.
And last but not the least, our youngest panelist today, Ajay Shukla, another ex-colleague of ours from Deshpande Foundation, who is now the director of Ek Soch. When he was introduced, EK Soch was said. Ek Soch is something very unique, and I'll request Ajay to please turn his video and introduce himself, please. Okay, I think Ajay's connectivity is a problem here. So,
am I audible now?
Yeah, he's here. Yeah, Ajay.
Yep.
Yeah, we are able to hear you, but not able to see you.
In fact,
now we are able to see you.
I'm on with my video.
Yeah, please.
Is it okay?
Yeah, very much.
Well, hello everyone, and namaskar to everyone who is present in the meeting today. In fact, the conference, I can say, is the combination of online and offline. And I'm glad that I could feel that I'm in Hubli, not physically, but virtually. Sandeep ji, Ketan ji, Santosh ji, everybody was like, I was listening everybody. And we are talking about technology. And at the time when I had to introduce myself, my own technology, I mean my system, has given me a pinch that Mr. Ajay, you need to first check your laptop. And this is what is actually obvious. I am right now speaking from Mathura, Vrindavan. And I was just 20 kilometers away in a field. Because of this meeting, I took a bike ride, 43 degrees Celsius hot. Why I'm sharing this story here? Because we are talking about developing the cities, developing technology infrastructure, the tech clusters. And my actually sharing maybe further on along with this introduction will be more on how we can also keep in mind the interior places where even the normal technology is a challenge. So Hubli is my first home for my professional journey. 2008 when I was in Hubli, 2019 when I was last at Hubli in my professional journey. 10 years Hubli has hosted me. I have seen Hubli. I can't say that I'm so old, but I've seen 10 years Hubli, the way it has grown. And the people of Hubli, absolutely, I think this kind of conference that we are talking, Hubli is absolutely the right place with the people's mindset. So I was with Deshpande Foundation for 10 years. and worked in Hubli in almost all the states of South. Especially my work and participation was with college youth, building their mindset. Then I moved to Varanasi. I was working in partnership with not-for-profit sector and using the fund in the best capacities to empower the cities like Varanasi and surrounding Eastern UP. And from 2019, I am working as a CSR head, as a director with Spice Digital Group, Ek Soch Foundation. So this is what is in brief, and look forward to talk again.
Thank you, Ajay. Ajay happens to be one of those young leaders. He's also advisor to Jharkhand Technological University, by the way, to the state government. And he lives in Noida, close to Delhi. And Ek Soch is the CSR wing of Spice group of mobiles, Mr. Dilip Modi's group, basically. Welcome, Ajay. So we'll not be wasting much of your time, but we'll begin straight away with the fact that our topic for the day is emerging cities harbingers to CSR activities. And we have a specialist right now here now with us. What does Dhyanda, do you believe Deshpande Foundation is bringing on the table right now when we are sitting here?
Well, the whole idea of making of a city was historically was people moved from villages. They were doing agriculture and they wanted to escape that kind of drudgery from there. And they thought, oh, the most liberating space and what we will get is in urban areas. Even in India, very early on, Dr. Ambedkar said that if you really want to experience freedom, you'll have to go to the cities and see that. So cities actually thrived on the intelligence of this hinterland. And a lot of people who moved there and expanded the economy in various forms. The time has come that those who got benefited in the hinterland and have moved to the cities, and even Hubli is a city, the number 2 city in Karnataka, and have moved further in life, they owe so much to the roots that are there. And I think this is the thought with which Desh Deshpande started the foundation. And what we are currently doing is a massive kind of operation that has kind of grown in the last 15 years of time. Currently, we are working on the 4 different strategic areas that link rural India to the urban India and makes this kind of transition and the transition of prosperity for rural India as the key concept for Deshpande Foundation. We call it as a Bharat and India. If the India lives in urban center, Bharat is here, and how this prosperity can be brought to Bharat. So there are 4 elements that have been considered. First, of course, rural India, or the India that is nearer to the rural economy, cannot thrive without agriculture. So there is a massive program that looks into creating water security for agriculture, which is the Farm Pond Initiative, which is one of the major initiatives. This year, up to this year, in last 3 years, we have created about 6,000 plus farm ponds in and around North Karnataka. And the goal is to build not only 10,000, but 1 lakh farm ponds, and then take it out to Telangana and further other states to create water security that will bring the second crop possible for the farmers. So this is the first thing that we do for the prosperity of the agrarian communities around. The second is their children, of course, want to do what our children want to do. Educate, learn, move on, startups. They want to work in the places. They might do agriculture too, but in a different manner. This year itself, if you see, India has more land under horticulture than the land under cereal crops. Why this has happened? Because the young farmers want to do horticulture and make more money. And this is an impulse. All of us want that impulse. And to nurture this impulse, what Sandeep ji is also leading that part, which is this micro entrepreneurship development, along with that skilling of the rural and urban youth. And what is the skilling? Actually, our schools, if they are really good, they can do a lot of the jobs that skilling institutions are currently doing. What actually skilling spaces teach, and all of you who are recruiting these kinds of talent, you will know what you see in talent. You need someone who speaks decent level of English, can communicate, can do business communication. When they say they will show up at 9 o'clock, they should show up at 9 o'clock. This is like they understand the value of time, the value of given word. They have clarity of thought. They know how to organize themselves. And they have certain sellable skills that are required, whether it is CNG machines, whether it is IT, ITES, support functions. Keeping this in mind, Deshpande Foundation does a lot of skilling in-house, which is we call the residential skilling program. And the second skilling program is a non-residential, which is called Skill Plus, where the similar kinds of skills are built in a year's time in the colleges itself. So computer literacy, English speaking, and I was so glad. I mean, these children who are absolutely unpolished diamonds who come in the program, and within no time, you can see them actually shining and performing and joining. I want to give one example which might come very handy to TIE members and Indo-American Chamber of Commerce here, that we recently partnered with the institutes, I mean, the entrepreneurs and the companies like iMerit or Fidelity, who wanted very specific training to be given to these students. So not only we did ran a 3 months course for them, which is the basic skilling course, but then we topped it up with the exact training that Fidelity wanted for their candidates to have, or iMerit wanted their candidates to have. So in this whole computer vision, in medical documentation, in so many upcoming fields where the back-end office is being managed in India, we are doing that kind of training. So we covered agriculture, micro-entrepreneurship, the reskilling, and the fourth and the main thing that remains and where we are invested a lot is upgradation of the government schools by giving them supportive function. We have 2 programs. One is called Early Sparks, which is for 5 to 8-year-olds. And then the second program is called Skills in Village, where 5th to 8th graders learn English, learn to learn, and learn to express themselves, become confident. So some of them can become entrepreneurs for Bharat. So this is the complete comprehensive vision. And why all of this is important, because finally the cities are not made by only people who become successful, but cities are actually made and designed by people who can bring so many people in the fold of success. So if that is the goal, then that's what Deshpande Foundation is aiming to do now. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive brief about what Deshpande Foundation brings on table. And we have, because there is a technological element here, and Raj and Ajay are challenged right now by that. So I'll request Raj, how do you think, being an edutech sector leader, how do you think CSR activities in the emerging cities like Hubli, Dharwad, Belgaum, the whole of North Karnataka has a lot of emerging cities, and how do you think your vision is going to be helping around here?
Thank you. This is a very complex project or a complex topic. Right? There is no one answer. There is no good answer. I think every idea is a good idea. I think we all can think about various ways. And thanks to Mr. Deshpande, who spoke about the vision that they are working with. I think that's very comprehensive in the way they are thinking. So coming from an education background, I think I'll cover 2 topics here. One is about distributed workforce. Right? That is very applicable to the current context of what is happening. The second topic is urbanization of rural areas. Right? Both of these are going to be very critical in the way we think about, we talk about tech sectors or clusters moving in. I think let's talk about the number one first. When we think about the distributed workforce, and of course, all of us have now realized what has happened over the last 2 years, what it did to all of us. Running an IT company is not easy anymore. I can tell you that of close to 1,500 employees we had in Bangalore, probably about 500 of them have moved to a rural area now. Right? They're living in smaller towns, smaller cities, and they've all shifted. And the wonderful thing is they're all connected. They're working. Right? They're productive. And from our standpoint, we think of this as a fantastic way to continue to grow and continue to improve lifestyles of employees. Because I think one of the things that they give up when they move into cities is their lifestyle, right? And lifestyle is not just about making money. It's about being close to your roots, being close to what connects with you. I mean, most people say that I want to make money, and go back to my town and do something. I mean, why should it be that way? Right? You can live in your town and make money. So that changing the concept of way you think, I think the distributed workforce is going to change the way we have always thought about employment. Right? And that is a given. That is not coming. I think that's come. Now extend this thought to another level, right? Which is, what is the next big thing happening globally? You're talking about metaverse, right? And I mean, most people in the room would say, I mean, what is he talking about? But it is something that billions and billions have been invested now in creating metaverse, which means it doesn't really matter which part of the world that you sit in. You can have an avatar, you can be part of many worlds. And this is going to be real in the working environment. And we are preparing for it, right? Because in the education technology, you talk about industrial revolution, you talk about all the revolution, it all started from industry. It all started from the other side. This is the one thing that the transformation that is happening, which is going to start from education. Because really what is happening is today we live in a metaverse. Today people are actually getting educated. Somebody sitting in Africa today is doing a course out of Indo, right? Someone sitting in Uganda today is going a course out of Singapore. I mean, that's a metaverse for you. We don't want to accept it that way. That is really a world of its own. So education is actually driving people to think that you can study sitting anywhere. You can work anywhere. You can live anywhere. That effectively is going to drive what I say is the clusters. I don't even want to call it clusters. I think it's going to be completely distributed workforce. Right? And this concept of us thinking of this as a cluster, as I believe, we are still probably a generation behind. We have to think further and say, let us talk about completely distributed workforce. Right? Now I'm going to switch over to the second topic, which is very relevant to the first topic. Now, what happens if you do this? Right? The urbanization. All of these people who have been used to urban lives, once they start moving into these clusters, when they start moving into these towns, they start to demand that level of urbanization in smaller towns. What that's going to create is a supply chain where a lot of employment is going to start getting created. And this is around the whole value system, right? What is happening in the urban areas is the entire value system that's going to get created, whether it's a water, sanitization, education, all the aspects that is required for the urbanization is going to move in. And actually, I was talking to some of our employees who now are in smaller towns, and they actually are now getting a lot of pushback to move back to city. And I said, why? Because these folks actually are increasing the cost of living of rural areas, right? Because they don't have, they're earning Bangalore salaries, living in smaller towns, and they are willing to pay any amount of money for a kg of onion, which the person living there would have a big problem with it. So their spending capability, their liquidity is much higher. So their spending capability is a lot more higher, which means the whole local ecosystem is going to evolve, is going to change for good. There may be a temporary feeling that it actually is hurting them, but truly it is going to change the feeling, because this money that they're paying is going to ultimately reach into another rural person's hand, right? So it is really the ecosystem is going to evolve by itself. It is actually growing by itself. So I think from ontology standpoint, what we are doing effectively is, connecting with one, of course, the rural distributed ecosystem. But second thing is, we're also working very closely with government departments and agencies in establishing where the employment lies. Today, if you actually, most people, and this will, I should have known about Hubli, I should have done a bit more research about Hubli, but I can tell you that if I talk about a city like Hassan, most people here would say, how many industries you think are there in Hassan? You couldn't even count it. You would say, I don't know, maybe 100. And I can tell you there are 1,200, right? And you would probably never connect that there are 1,200 and ask this question to somebody from Hassan who's living in Bangalore and say, why don't you go back to Hassan? They say, no, there are no jobs. There are 1,200 companies in Hassan, and every one of them are hiring people. So they just don't know, hence they end up in the city. So what we do is effectively from an, as an edtech player, we actually are mapping those jobs to skills to where the availabilities are. So that collection of mapping is actually helping people to identify at a local level where the jobs are. If somebody is doing a BA in journalism, they don't know what to do in a rural village. But today we can actually tell them that if you actually do an additional course of Adobe, you can actually be remotely working for a company in Mumbai, or you can actually start your own entrepreneurship this way. So that is what is missing today, and that is the piece that we're connecting. So that's
Beautiful.
my view.
Beautiful. Thank you. In fact, I was about to hear, I was expecting probably you would immediately be citing the example of Mr. Sridhar Vemula, the Zoho chairperson, who has quit his cushy job and cushy comfortable lifestyle in the US somewhere and is settled down now in Tamil Nadu in a rural setup and all. Thank you so much. This is such a potential thought that you are leaving us behind, because in a country which is laden with about 6 lakh plus villages, both you and Danda actually brought about very pertinent point. I am sure when we reach to Ajay also, maybe immediately after when we have finished talking to Mr. Mahesh first, because from EduTech, let's move back to the generation behind manufacturing sector that you said is certainly not acceptable because we still require the physicality of events, physicality of, last 2 years of COVID probably has been a eye-opener to us all that we still love to be meeting actually in person. And that's why we are sitting here in person, sir. Your views and visions, sir.
Coming to the manufacturing sector, or maybe the old economy, as would like to say, I would like I did mention it in a very lighter vein about it, but there has been a recent report from McKinsey which says in the coming near future, maybe 5 to 10 years down the line, the old economy, or what we call that, is going to come back with a bang. And it is going to come back with such force that maybe we don't know where we would be. So keeping that context in mind, I fully agree with what Ms. Janada said and Mr. Raj said as well about the urbanization, how people are moving from the rural areas to the, or maybe from the hinterland to the cities like Belgaum, Hubli, Dharwad, so on and so forth. What we are doing per se, like we are taking just baby steps, I would say, wherein we have started a skill development center, not just to cater to the manufacturing setup as such, but we are trying to build it across the spectrum of the requirements, because what we have been observing till all these times is that the so-called demographic dividend of India, which we often want to boast about, saying we have the youngest population, which is there maybe 30 plus or in their late 30s or something like that, and that has a huge potential for growth and all. But let us take it with a pinch of salt and say, though we have such a huge demographic dividend, we have really failed to capitalize on it. We should have been maybe leaps and bounds ahead of China if we talk of our knowledge of English, our knowledge of technical education, which is available and all. But still, we have not been able to capitalize on it. What that in turn has created is a mass of people who are what you call underdeveloped, I would say, or underemployed. Maybe that's a better term for that, which is meaning they are like if I see my journey into the manufacturing line for the last 7 years or maybe 15 years to be precise, we had ITIs who used to man machines. Then we got diplomas to man machines. We got engineering graduates to man machines. And now we have postgraduates in engineering who are willing to man machines. This is the level of underemployment what we are seeing it, and this is specifically what we need to address. And I don't see the day being far off. Maybe we have what you call doctorates willing to man those machines, because that's the level of what you call the skilling, which is so predominantly underdeveloped, you would say. We had the best of the education, we had the best of the vocational training institutes as well. So what we need to focus as we bring in these new cities are coming in, all of these, I do come from that. We name them as tier 2, but they're on par with others. Is we need to focus more on how we could give them skills which could make them more, which could enable them and empower them, to all the youth which are there. Because I see going into the future, if we don't do this, we are looking at a huge discontent, and there could be social unrest as well. The day could not be far off when we see that. Having said that, it is important for these skills. It is important, like Ms. Nana rightly said, for that water security per se, a very important thing with the land, with the water table going so depleted and all. We are trying to educate people in terms of how to conserve water. And when we're doing this, we are trying to lead by example by doing that first and then demonstrate it to people. I was fortunate enough to be trained by Sri Furuhashi Takayuki, who is one of the living members of Taichi Ono. So I've been very fortunate in that, blessed, I would say. And wherein he told me that before you want to do anything, you first demonstrate, then people will be convinced that yes, that's the right thing to do. So we are trying to do that as well, trying to focus on these areas. We are trying to see how we could help educational institutes to work with the industry per se. I would not say we have met with a considerable amount of success. There have been what you call roadblocks in the entire journey so far, but we have still not let our focus out of there, because finally, at the end of the day, it is how much employability we create. How no doubt we have a huge set of people coming from villages. Primarily, I think personally is because the shrinkage in the agriculture is more towards the land holdings becoming meager because of the various divisions in the family. And which is becoming more unproductive, or maybe that is where I feel the horticulture is coming more, getting more predominance, because it may not need a huge space of land for agriculture per se. So that could be one of the reasons. And we have families which were much bigger, which for want of security and food, moving out to these places like all of these Belgaum, Dharwad, and North Karnataka in search of livelihood. We cannot, like Mr. Raj said, it does increase the cost of living when, especially after the pandemic, when people came back and organizations developed a way to work from home and all of those things. It did happen. But then that was a necessity because pandemic taught us to innovate. And I would like to give due credit to the education sector here, because the way the teachers innovated, it was mind-boggling. You need to give it to them. And that is what all of these things, what you call, through the CSR initiatives can bring in terms of these innovations. If we can bring these innovations to the forefront, when we can club maybe the edutech as well as innovations from the industries, which could be more meaningful to the hinterland as well. We need to give back to the hinterland, because that is finally the place which is going to feed us. Come what may, we may urbanize to, we may say we want to be an urban economy by say 2030 or something. But if the hinterland doesn't feed us, I don't think we can be an urban economy. We would be back to square one. So we should be innovating more towards those economies as well. And that is where the CSR focus should go. And like we are moving away from, it was just a matter of fact that we did CSR or something, and towards being more responsible citizens as corporate, being more responsible. Primarily because it's giving them much better brand image, that we are more socially responsible. Yes, nothing comes for free. So we should give them that brand image, and we should help them to, build it up. As long as it helps everybody, the society in general, that should be good enough. And that's where I would leave my thoughts to be. Maybe we could discuss.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. The background is a little about myself. I'm a rural development professional. Okay, you can ask me what I'm doing in a city, but all along last 30 years of my career, I've been thinking about what should we be doing so that a decentralized, let me not accredit only Gandhiji for that, but then his writings are more potent than anyone else in the country about that, India lives in the villages. So you have been all of us, probably all of us here, the youngest generation here or the oldest one of sitting here, we'll all have read this sentence, India lives in its villages. Question to be asked was always, like as a child, I always asked myself, Risa, what is it that we are doing for these villages where the India is living? All three of you, as of now, and I'm sure Ajay is going to be adding some more dimensions about unorganized sector. He's a very rich experience of a lot of craft sector also. And I will be requesting him, and very rich experience of rural development, particularly in Varanasi and in and around areas. And You have brought about sustainability, all three of you. You have brought about the importance of education even in the rural areas, and you have brought about cities may not be the only answer to it. And of course, we acknowledge that yes, corporates are also equal citizens like us, and they have got a far greater role to play now than ever, probably because they will be taking away a lot of these resources for their manufacturing or their other parts of it. So as a result, probably for that cost taken, their contribution to the society is expected. So
I would just like
sure,
sorry
sure.
to interrupt. I'd just
Yeah.
like to add one point because it just crossed my mind. Like what Mr. Raj said, distributed workforce. Maybe we could see innovation in how we could have a distributed, maybe an industrial setup which could go into the villages and develop that economy there by having some sort of an industry which would focus on the local locality there, and as long as it meets their requirements, that could also be a sign of development.
Sure, agreed. Let's get over to Ajay also, the youngest of the leader today amongst us, to be talking about his views and vision about how does he see CSR activities in the emerging cities and what needs to be done here.
Well, Sandeep ji, and for all, it's nice to listen the views that both of the speakers and ma'am has already shared. I would just more focus on my own experience because absolutely we all have access to internet, we all have access to Google Baba, we can get all the reports and data whatever we want. But the real experience that I am sharing, that Mr. Raj is sharing, some other panelists are sharing, that is not available in Google. So with my experience that I have spent in smaller cities, and I feel now proud that I'm at the right platform in the right panel because we are talking for the same thing. Varanasi, when I moved from Hubli to Varanasi, before that, when I moved from Lucknow to Hubli, I didn't know that. I thought that it would be a smaller village, but it was bigger than my expectation. So something big happened. And then I actually, from a student, I spent almost 10 years there. 2015, when I moved to Varanasi, and I was given a big responsibility that I have to create another center that already was existing in Hubli, and that was in Varanasi that I had to do. So absolutely, it was a like overall perspective that the person who is leading, I think we need. I don't say that this is my example or anybody's. We all are the exemplary. That is how we are here on this in this panel or in this audience. We need to have a clear vision, actually, that vision of a leader who is driving, vision of a CSR who is funding, and vision of an organization who is operating. If these three people's vision is meeting and they are all committed for a certain period, maybe it is for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, because change of leadership in between, change of a funder in between, change of an operating organization in between can really harm a lot that we want to achieve. So I think this should be synced. This is the one thing, the long-term vision we should have. And then each single rupee that is being raised or invested as a CSR, that will make a big impact. So what we did the best, we made a collaboration with IIT BHU. And I was feeling proud that that is one of the best decisions we have taken, because one of the best minds and ecosystem that we get. So ecosystem is another thing for an organization, and to create the impact. We should know that we should have a healthy ecosystem where we are going to impact, because we all people are talking here to get the future partners, to get the good ecosystem for Hubli, Dharwad, Belgaum, Gadag, Haveri. So this is what we are envisioning here. So this is what is actually very important, because we opted actually to 5 or 6 districts surrounding to Varanasi. Then we thought actually what to do. We have not jumped directly. We invited a couple of partners, and these partners were executing the program. So their excellence we have used. Another way we have used, as Sandeep ji was sharing, that the artisans. So we also need to know that what the local people need. We cannot make everybody to become a company. We cannot think that, okay, every person who is coming with an idea can be excellent to execute. No. If I'm coming with an excellent idea, I may need somebody else to operate it. So many of the time we do mistakes. So in my opinion, I think we should create an open, accessible kind of a grassroots innovation incubation system. Like we have a lot of innovators on the grassroots level. We have a lot of जुगाड़ technology. बहुत कुछ गांव में होता रहता है, बहुत कुछ छोटे शहरों में होता रहता है. But we always think for something kind of a tier 1 cities or metro city kind of idea. We need to have a local rooted idea that can flourish in the local way. And that idea should be funded by the CSR. So this is the role of a leader and catalyst I'm talking about, who can really prove it and present it very well to the funder, that this is what is needed. Because the grassroots entrepreneurs are not the good in presentation or presenting their ideas and presenting their business model. So this is very, very important. And I think same thing is important. Some people or some student from Hubli, Dharwad, I never consider, because for me, this is one of the best place. This is beyond even in terms of knowledge, thought process, and progress. I say it is nowhere less than Bangalore. Maybe infrastructure, maybe the issue. But we do have a lot of cities like Hubli, Dharwad, those who don't have this access. So this is something we do. So what we have done, another experiment in Mathura, Vrindavan, absolutely it is just 2 hours away from Noida, maybe 1.5 hours. But we at Eksoch Foundation, as a CSR of Spice Group, we actually have taken decision that we will make our base in a smaller city. And we will utilize all the excellence that is happening in the bigger cities. So right now we are investing our own fund, but absolutely very soon you will listen. We are going to get some good partners. And in fact, very soon Intel is going to collaborate with us for AI technology. So Intel has a very, very unique program, AI for all and AI for youth. I think this should reach to the grassroots level. So that is where actually the grassroots organizations need the top level technology partners or CSR partners, or maybe some of the big partners who are good in organizing. So my only, I think, if I sum up that what we should do or how we should think, again, I would frame my overall journey that I was sharing, that we should have all the catalysts, all the stakeholders come together, plan together, and absolutely it is very important. हमने अभी बोला, संदीप जी ने भी बोला कि India lives in village, but even we don't have time to go and realize and see the life of village. We can only, we love to see the village life only in the screen. But in the 43-degree, 45-degree temperature, if we can spend 1 week of time, we can really understand what is the real need and how we can flourish it, how we can develop it. So this is also very important actually. To make the CSR to go longer, we should engage them to come to the ground, spend some time and understand that how long is the need of the money that we are expecting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ajay. Thank you so much. Beautifully summed up. I think the evening has been very well set. We can have hours of discussions about the points that has been raised by our esteemed panel here. But I think there is there's always in time and frame, we have to live by. So I think we come to the concluding session of this panel discussion. Thank you all the esteemed panel members, Raj, Ajay, Maheshi, Nanda. Very good discussion. I'll just take 1 minute to sum up. You all have actually brought to the forefront the reality that all of you said. One is, without environmental sustainability, let's not plan. Without local people's participation, let's not plan. Any sector, whether it's manufacturing or edutech or anything, it is only as vibrant as people are going to be making it vibrant for. And they are going to be making it vibrant only when they have their vested interest fulfilled out of it. Vested as in need interest. We are talking about livelihoods here. We are not talking about anything beyond that. We are talking about livelihoods of a very young country. Much of it is here also. And I think these 3 points, I think, are very important for us to be understanding. And come what may, but I think we are poised as a country, as a very young country. The demographics, you said, Mahesh, very well, needs to be taken care in the very, and Ajay also poignantly is pointing out to that only, that unless we understand the realities of the grassroots, let's not take the next step further. Let's have the discretionary powers within India or within our own communities to be deciding which goes best where. It can't be centralized anymore. Raji very poignantly again said, decentralized education and all that. I think these 4 to 5 points are good enough for all of us to take back home and start wondering about, in my work or in your work, how best we are able to make use of these 5 or 6 points, which has come out of, I think, more than 100 years of collective experience and wisdom of yours. Thank you so much again for joining us here and making this evening all the more wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, the organizers, for giving us the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have next keynote address by Mr. Sanjay Gupta, CEO KDEM.
Very good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me
Yes,
loud?
sir, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Fuel, and thank you, ISCC, for inviting me for this session today. It is really, really close to my heart as well. And I really feel privileged to be invited for this session and talking from my heart in terms of what I feel, where the CSR and the emerging tech clusters, a relationship can be built up. So once again, thank you, Fuel. Now, if I divide my time in terms of what I want to convey to you today is in two parts. One, the real thing that we're doing together on the ground in the perspective of the Karnataka digital economy mission and what this mission is all about towards the growing the clusters, growing the, how do we create the emerging tech clusters in the country and how we can make them grow. That's just one part. And the second part is about linking in some of the initiatives of the corporates, where it's really helpful to see the relationship go deeper, where these clusters can be growing much faster. So bring to that level, Karnataka Digital Economy Mission is a not-for-profit organization set up by Government of Karnataka and the industry, primarily to promote the digital economic growth in the country. And dear friends, I've been using this terminology a lot, that Honorable Prime Minister, $1 trillion digital economy, if it has to be realized, Karnataka will have to stand up in a big responsible manner to contribute to the larger extent of a digital economy. And so we are looking at that, how do we can have more than 40% of our state economy coming from a digital economy. Now, you must be thinking that, yes, Karnataka is already ahead in the curve, so why to worry? But it's not the case. Numbers are static. Every number is dynamic, and every region or every state and every part of the world is dynamic. So we need to do something very differently to ensure that we are ahead of the curve again and again and going forward. And in this relationship, we have these 5 different verticals that we're looking at. One is purely from how do we see that our ahead of the curve strategy of IT, ITS, GCC, BPM is still there, and we are making some different impact together. The second one is the electronic system design, manufacturing, and exactly, where Karnataka stands ahead of the curve is on chip designing companies here, the R&D companies here. But again, we have to find out some different way, because our current status and the aspiration that we have is very different. The third one is startup and innovation. Very proud to say that we are the largest startup ecosystem of the country, and we are ranked as number 10 or number 20 around the world. But our hunger is to be top 5 in the startup ecosystem of the world. And the examples like Deshpande Foundation, the example that Fuel is also partnering with many other organizations are great to showcase to the world. And the fourth one is, Talent Accelerator, when we see how do we, forecast the future skills required by the country, and how do we put up an ecosystem together to ensure that the talent which is required by the industry in future is available as and when they're looking at their growth story and our expansion plans. The fifth one, which is very, very critical, is the beyond Bangalore. And here comes the definition of, we don't call it tier 2 and tier 3. Ajayji, I was listening to you, and you're talking about Banaras, and Banaras is where my what's called Gyan Bhumi is, where I studied from Banaras. So I'm very close to that part of it, Ajay. And it has really helped me a lot to bring what I am today. So for that aspect, so beyond Bangalore, when you say, we use a word not tier 2, not tier 3, we use emerging tech clusters. And that is where we go to, when you see tier 2, like looking down. When we say emerging tech clusters, our head goes up. And that's where we want to feel that we are a proud clusters to promote the country. Having said this, we need to channelize the economic growth towards these clusters, because everything cannot be focused in Lucknow or in Bangalore or in Chennai or in Hyderabad. And if really the 1 trillion digital economy that we're looking at, I'm pretty convinced, and I'm thinking that everybody else is getting convinced as well, that the emerging tech clusters has to take a larger role in that digital number that Honorable Prime Minister is looking at it. So to that extent, this is where we are, and we are trying to put together a huge amount of strategies in terms of industry participation. The one beauty of this organization is KDEM is that it is like an industry-driven organization. Now, what it means is, we can make a driver, which is bureaucracy, and start the engine and start a car, but we don't know which road to go, because we don't know the industry's pain point, the way the technology is changing, the way it happens in the market space. It's better let the industry champions drive the car, and let the bureaucracy or government sits at the back seat and says, "Don't worry, I'm with you." Hindi mein kehte hain, "Aap bindas chalo, aapke saath chal rahe." That is the definition of the KDEM that looks into. And with this approach, Mr. Santosh is there, and Vivek Pawar is there, and Venkatesh is there, and Belgaum, Hubli, Dharwad itself. The industry anchors are the owner of the cluster. We are not. They are the owner of the cluster. They drive the strategies of what we need in the cluster growth story. So that is the beauty of this organization, where the industry is willingly giving their time, commitment, and passion to design strategy, and not only design, but execute. And what government does, once the strategy is fixed, this is what you want to do, the government starts saying, let's do it. Let's execute it. And hence the entire system starts working on, could be the Department of Industry, could be the Department of Skill Development, could be Department of Finance, could be Department of ITBD, Information Technology, etc., etc., etc. And not at the level of state level, assembly, but it goes down to the district level and etc. So you find the commissioners, you find the district magistrates and DCs are participating in that program as well. Why I was saying this? This was very, very important to understand that the new wave that we're looking in the country, and Honorable Prime Minister also says that we need to find ways of evenly growth story in the country, evenly growth story. It cannot be centered, right? So if that's the story, then this thinking of the clusters, the emerging tech clusters, the thinking of industry coming together at a cluster and industry owning this needs to be seen in the right perspective, needs to be appreciated with a lot of happiness and proud. And I am very proud of the team that is there in Hubli, Belgaum, Dharwad, because they actually own it. And I just become like a program manager. They decide the program, I just run the program for them. And that's how it is becoming a beauty of success that you're seeing today. A lot of companies are coming up and setting up their operations in Hubli, Belgaum, Dharwad region, and so the other emerging tech clusters as well. And why it is so? It is not because of what government of Karnataka's policies are. It is because of the ecosystem, the partnership, the collaboration is being seen by others investors. And when they see it, I'm part of this game. And hence then they come across and then start looking at it. So friends, one part is this, which is very important to understand, that if at all you want to promote the clusters, if you want to make clusters going forward, industry has to be a very strong point of partnership, and bureaucracy, especially the government of Karnataka, recognizes that. Number one point. So this whole 5-7 minutes which I took was concluding was this remark. Now the second part is about when I see the CSR. The days when I remember, I served a large number of my years in bureaucracy. I served my large number of years in the corporate as well. So I've seen a little bit of both sides of the story. Somehow I feel that in the initial years when the CSR was looked at, it looked like an obligation. How do I fulfill my obligation? My commitment which is there, how do I fulfill and find out projects which we can run it and calculate that number of money has been invested. Later on, it shifted towards mode of thinking around of, hey, are we really creating some impact? Okay, so what we find out is, for example, an IT company will find out a rural BPO and they will give some grants to rural BPO to run a program on that. But not very strategically looking at how we are actually growing the economy of that region, not in the larger canvas level. And I think now when in 2019 and 2020, when Finance Ministry, Government of India has announced that R&D is also eligible as a CSR obligation, so to say. But however, it's more like an enabler as a positive catalyst that we can look at it. So then came us idea is about that how do we bring the obligation to I would say O-ETC. Now what is O-ETC is? It's like O stands for not obligation here. O stands for obvious. And obvious is then it goes as is emerging tech cluster. That means your CSR of obligation is shifting towards obviously where it's an emerging tech cluster. And so O-ETC becomes a phrase where I want to promote this to the corporates. But think on those lines, that if you think of CSR, just look at the concept called as O-ETC. That means you feel yourself, obviously, I have to go where? The emerging tech clusters. Now, in that journey, the organizations like us, the industry partnership that you're putting together here, becomes your positive catalyst, or you can say your working hands. Leverage them. If I see the number of statistics in terms of the projects on the tech level, I think around 8,000 projects which I saw at the country level, maybe some, less than 2% is only in the tech field. But if you see the international NGOs which have started functioning upon, I take an example of PATH itself. PATH has been now providing a lot of initiatives in the areas of strategically tech-based healthcare, rural healthcare. How do we make a data connectivity problem unsolved, being solved through a project which can be run at a PSC level? Likewise, so what I'm trying to say is that from a strategy perspective, you see the tech is not there. And we are saying O-ETC. So that means a T word in this part has to stand up a little bit more bold, bigger size, and maybe italics as well. But in that sense, the technology needs to take a space here. Then I raise a question to the industry and say, tell me one, if you are not using tech in your field, would you be surviving the next wave of economic growth? The answer is no. No. Every company has to use tech in their products and services to be the leader or to be a competitor in the market space. That is being granted, taken, understood. But have this understood in the concept of CSR? Has this really understood the level of concept of CSR that tech is a very important element of impact? And if tech is very important element of impact, then again my quote is O-ETC becomes obvious. So my request to the corporate is that start looking at O-ETC, start looking at organizations like Fuel, like us, where the KDEM is there, which are committed to and passionate to this. Because we are changing the world. Now, how we are changing the world? For example, we started a concept called as WOW, Women at WOW, W@W. If you read, it looks like WOW. What we're trying to do, every corporate has a strategy to attract women workforce in their organization. But is this message going to the emerging tech clusters and to the cities and in the block level, where the student base is pretty good, the unemployment is also there, but hunger is there for growing? How do we reach out to them? Organizations like us can design various projects and reach out to them, and then create a technology platform for skill development and marketplace for getting the job. And this is what we're trying to do. Partner with us in these initiatives, and then increase the 1 + 1 is 11, and maybe 1 + 1 + 1 is not 311. So I think it's the more corporates start looking at and joining their hands together, I'm pretty confident we will change the color of emerging tech clusters. The organizers, please stop me. I'm talking with my heart and passion, so it will keep on talking and talking. So you have to let me know what my time is over. So if you see that, this is how it happens from the perspective of how do we create a tech clusters growing up? Nothing is important than this, because if you're going to create an impact, you're creating an impact not in one individual who gets a job, who gets a better services or entrepreneurship. The entire family, entire community changes. And that is where the impact goes. And without technology, this impact cannot be seen in coming years. So humble request to all the corporates listening to me, all the corporates of my friend sector that we have, come and join hands together. This is an example. Now we will be definitely publishing a report as well, where I'll talk about how these tech clusters and how the corporates have worked together. Wait and watch. You will get examples from Karnataka and feel proud being associated with the Karnataka and being associated with the cluster that we have. We are promoting 3 clusters. Going forward, there will be 6 clusters. And I'm pretty sure maybe a couple of years, we'll have 12 clusters. I think that's the way we should start a journey and create that examples. What has been done in the various parts of the world, including what has been done in Varanasi, is examples to showcase. I'm using the word Varanasi a little biasly because I belong to some heart there. So example of various kinds available all across the country as well. Let's leverage that. Examples of KDEM should be replicated in other states, where they can bring the industry together on the driving seat and start looking at that level. I think my time is up, but happy to take up any few questions. Bottom line is, feel we are your friends, corporates. We want to make an impact to the clusters and to create a technology platforms, reachable, connected, and bring a lot of employment and new companies coming and joining and setting their operations there. Thank you so much for your time, friends. I'm willing to take up any questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your address. Thank you. Now we move on to facilitation ceremony. a book written by Aditya Hurlikopi, which says Act Now or Lose, in grade 10, addressing United Nations Sustainability Development Goals and Role of Teens. I call on Abhinav Hurlikopi to come on and give the book to our chief guests who are present here. Dr. Manohar sir.
Hi, congratulations to you.
Mr. Chandrakant PN sir. Abhinav. Yeah, Mrs. Dhyananda Deshpande. Mahesh Birangi sir. Sandeep Sabarwal sir. And Mr. Jose Jacob.
His brother has written, actually, he's a school. So, yeah.
Thank you, Abhinav. Yeah, we have the certificates to be given across who have completed future skill courses from Fuel. I call up Meena Kumari. I request Pallavi Madam to come on to give the certificates, please. I request Ravani Madam to come on to give the certificate, please.
Shivani Pujeri. I request Gautam sir, Gautam Oswal sir to come forward, please, for the next felicitation.
Akshata.
Gautam sir. I request Jose Jacob to come
Darshana.
forward for the felicitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, now on to call up Santosh Shulikopi, BCM IAC CC Karnataka, Chief Mentor Fuel and Trustee Thai Global, to speak on the road ahead on CSR. Thank you.
Yeah, very good evening. And firstly, thank you so much, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, coming all the way from Bangalore. It means a lot. I always have a very fond memories of our past events, and this also is already a good event. And in days to come, this kind of collaboration, I think, will take us to a next level where we have Karnataka Digital Economy Mission, we have TAI and IACC and organization like Fuel taking the lead. Just to give everyone's knowledge that Fuel started its journey in 2007, and I heard the Deshpande Foundation also started in 2007. I think it's just a coincidence, but both have contributed to Hubli a lot. And specifically on CSR, the topic which I am going to speak, in 2014, the government made it as a mandatory act of 2% spend with a criteria of turnover and profits and all that. Post that, Fuel has been working extensively with the support of CSR. We have a partnership with HDFC Bank, Citibank, Standard Chartered, ANZ, Hero, Honda, many of them who have been year on year supporting us, and different projects. Most of these projects initially used to be in urban centric. If you see these companies headquarters either are in Mumbai, most of the large companies, PSUs, banks, IT technology, Bangalore, maybe Hyderabad a little, and Chennai. But even the CSR implementation was happening in the same cities, like around the cities. I can say 50 kilometers around the cities. So in around 2016-17, when it was little mature, we started, kind of advocating to CSR companies that why not you move out of Hubli, out of Bangalore, out of Mumbai. And initially a lot of resistance, but I wish to share in the last, I can say 3 to 4 years, Fuel alone has been able to get close to 20 crores in this region alone. And Hubli has been our hub, and we work in Belgaum, we work in Haliyar, we work in Ranebennur, we work in Lakshmeshwar. And other thing, what we did is we work in 2 areas, which like Ketan mentioned, education and skill development. In education, we do career counseling, coaching, and kind of a projects, and skill development is futuristic skills. So we chose colleges of tier 3, tier 4 institutes because we find that the need is very high there. And CSR is a fund which needs to be spent on the social responsibility. So we chose colleges from Haliyar, Deshpande is one of the colleges. Then we have Lakshmeshwar Agadi Engineering College. Gadag, we have Tontadara Engineering College. We have Haveri Government Engineering College. And I don't know whether you heard of a place called Nidishoshi near Belgaum, which is again an engineering college there. So idea is that the bigger institutes like say KLE Tech or KLE IT or many of them have resources to do a lot of work, but these places need a lot of help. And even in the education, we work predominantly with the government schools, whether it is in Shigaon or whether it is in Navanagar here or any of the areas we have been working. All the schools we adopt is a government school. And also glad to share, we also have partnered with organizations like Rotary here. In fact, just 2 days back, we did a workshop for them in one of the Rotary schools here in nearby. Which location was it, Raj? Rotary, where we did that? Navanagar. So like that, we have various partnerships, various things. So today, coming to my topic of the CSR again, there's a lot of scope for work to be done in tier 2, tier 3, and what our Prime Minister calls them as aspirational districts of India. The concept coined by Niti Aayog, and Fuel is also a partner there, where 117 districts are pulling our economy down, is what the report says. So if we can say double the economy, you can say, or any improvement in the economy in those districts, Karnataka, there is Raichur, which is one of the districts identified, and Yadgir. In Maharashtra, there are about 4 districts. Like that, all over India, there are 117 districts. So Fuel also has been working with Niti Aayog, and we have an MOU with them to work on. So there are a lot of things which can be done through CSR in these regions. Some part is happening, but a lot to happen. Still, the comfort zone is around the metros, and I always, whenever I go for a CSR presentation, and when they ask me my choice of location, I always choose probably Hubli first, but definitely not the metro cities, because I feel a lot is already there, and the need is more here. And a lot of CSRs, especially people coming from social welfare background or the TIS or any of those people, they understand why I'm saying that, and we connect, and we then bring out reports of what impact it can cause if we do something in, say, a Nandurbar in Maharashtra, which is an aspirational district, versus do somewhere around, say, Thane in Mumbai. Like a lot of people ask us to work in Thane than in Nandurbar. So we keep debating, and I think I can say that today, out of all the work we do, more than 50% is in outside of the metro cities, which is phenomenal, because it used to be 95% plus a few years back. So we have consciously moved out and convinced our partners. So today, idea is anybody who's working with CSR or leaders of CSR that consider these regions and support these regions, so that it could really make an impact at the last mile, what we call, or the grassroots we call, or the need where the maximum is, because the fund is limited. End of the day, CSR also has a limited budget to spend, and the problems are plenty. And in fact, during COVID, the year 50% of the fund went to COVID relief work, which is, everyone can understand, the need was very high there. But in a normal situation, I am saying that 50% should go to non-metros. So that's what I have been advocating, and I have personally interacted with Mr. Amitabh Kant on this, Niti Aayog, and post that I can say that they have made at least because they have control over public sector units, not the private ones. All the public sector units have been given to adopt these aspirational districts now, and we advocated a lot for that, and they have to spend at least 50% of the CSR budget. It is large budgets, like say Coal India or any of those BPCL, ONGC, large companies, that 50% should be spent in aspirational districts. It has become like a rule for them, and they are following it, which is also a very big, I can see a change in the mindset. And overall, I think a long way to go still, but CSR can really add value. And like Sanjay said, along with CSR, a very interesting concepts have come in Maharashtra, where now they are saying 50% you bring in through CSR, 50% we will contribute. So that's another big thing happening when Maharashtra has already made an act on this. And we have been given 2 projects now where suppose we bring in 2 crores, government also puts 2 crores, and we force multiply the project. And same across India, I'm sure in days to come that will happen, which is also not burdening everything on CSR. Otherwise, CSR leaders are feeling that all the social problems are thrown on them, and what is government doing? So that was the mindset behind it. And finally, it is coming through. Not all states, but at least few states are coming through. And I request anyone here to visit our centers here and see what we are doing and how we are doing. And probably that can become a model for other cities also. We can explore and partner. Of course, just to share, Deshpande Foundation is where Fuel incubated. So we have fond memories of that in 2007 and beyond. And we also have received grants in the initial year, which kept Fuel alive. The fuel was given by the Deshpande Foundation. And Desh himself has been a big supporter. And in fact, the book which Ketan and I have written, Desh has written a foreword for that. So I think we come a long way, and that's something I could do being from Hubli, at the grassroots, And it's fortunate that I'm mentoring an organization, Fuel, which could contribute back to the city where I am from. And in days to come, I'm very sure whatever we are doing, we can further force multiply. In fact, this year we added DBS, it's a Singapore-based bank, CSR in Hubli. And we added ANZ, again, Australia New Zealand Bank, that too again in Hubli. So some of these, I don't think names would ever come to Hubli to support. Thanks to Fuel and their entire team behind, with Ketan leading, who puts in a lot of, somebody who writes proposals, they know what it means and how to convince CSR heads. So overall, I think we have come a long way, but still a long way to go. And thanks everyone for coming over. Thanks Manoharji for taking out your time. Thanks entire IACC team, Joe's, whole family of Chandrakant and Jitika, our star performer as always, and also the panel. Actually, it was very interesting panel. Mahesh has been always a great supporter, and also the speakers there, and also the moderator and everybody who could make it happen. Very interesting. And this event we conceptualized in a very short time, so that's why we could not market it well. But in days to come, we will ensure that this kind of things happen in collaboration with the Deshpande Foundation and TAI and others also. And thank you again for giving me this opportunity, Raj, and over to you for the next.
Hey, Santosh, can I just make a request to you?
Array, you are there still.
How can I miss your talk, Santoshji? Right. So thank you so much. Santoshji, I have a request that, and especially with IAC as well, Mr. Jose is there, I know. Can you replicate this event in the other clusters, please? And we would be happy to take it forward. This is an initiative that we need to be going forward more.
So today I have committed, Sanjeev, that I am coming for the golf tournament for IACC in Mysore. So we'll add this program in that event as well. So,
yeah, one in Mangalore and one in Mysore.
Yes. Surely, we'll do it. Definitely do it. And I'll ask if Fuel can support this also. I'll just try. Yeah.
Perfect. And IACC also. Both of them are coming.
Of course. IACC is there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request Mr. Jose Jacob K, Chairman IACC, to provide vote of thanks, way forward, and concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. I would like to thank Santosh because he did the vote of thanks part. So because I am standing between you and T, I will not do the vote of thanks again. But I just want to speak a little bit about the way forward. Just few points. I will finish in 5 minutes, and usually I keep time. All my friends will say. Narayan Murthy used to once say, the greatest asset of our organization leaves the gate at 6 p.m. from Infosys. And it's my job as the CEO to get them back next day motivated and excited. The greatest learning in that quote is, for a knowledge company and for a knowledge economy, the most valuable asset is people. What's in between the 2 years is the most valuable thing that the knowledge sector is after. So the key insight that we have to take, especially as we are trying to drive strategic CSR, is can we use CSR as the tool that will put the manure and prepare the ground where talent for the present and future can grow? So that's the question. If the talent is there and if the skill is there, even if you stop the companies with all kinds of gates, they will find a way to come into whichever city or even hell. You can't stop them. So the question is, today we were, our whole team, Dr. Manohar, Senior Vice Chairman Chandrakant, Jitika from our secretariat, we were all there in the Fuel office. We were trying to understand what they're doing, and they're doing excellent work. So I would like to urge various companies that have their CSR budgets to connect with the Deshpande Foundation, to connect with Fuel, and to see how they can collaborate to build that talent pool. So that's one. The second thing is, from the speeches that we heard today, one important element that came out from the panel discussion is what I would call the end of distance. Today we are all here. There are some guys, I don't know, I think Sanjeev is from Bangalore. Sanjeev, are you still there? I mean, if you're there, then I think, you are joining us from Bangalore. There's somebody else joining us from Mathura. The end of distance is here. And this strategic shift should tell us that people can be trained anywhere, anytime, anyhow. The question is, are we training them in the right direction and in the right skill to the right level of depth with the right type of intervention? I think to answer all this, Fuel is also doing a lot of research to find out the right type of training that has to be done for young people. And like our other speaker who said he's from the old economy, the manufacturing sector, we are in front of a ticking time bomb. Either it will be an economic disaster or an economic dividend. So I'd like to end with the Jewish element. The Jews kind of run America. They have the underpinnings of the economy. They have a very interesting philosophy. There is no word for status quo in the Jewish language, which means there is nothing that is static. Either you're growing or you're declining. So our question today is, are our emerging tech clusters growing? I think they are. From whatever we saw in Hubli, it's just one day. And I think I would like to affirm to Sanjeev from KDEM, which is doing a great job. Especially this vision is not easy. If I was in Sanjeev's position and if people told do something beyond Bangalore, I would say bye-bye, take the key to my office and see you later. But they have taken up this really difficult task, and it's people who take up difficult tasks that can make a difference. For the easy stuff, there are many people, available. It's the difficult task that inspires us, changes us, and helps us reach a new height. So with these few words, for the way forward, ISCC is a partner, and we are ready to partner with KDEM and with Fuel and with Deshpande Foundation to see in which way we can value maximize, like Santosh was saying, and we can amplify the efforts already being done on the ground. Thank you all for coming, taking time. And of course, as the chairman of IICC, I would like to say, please become our member. Chandrakant showed you some of the various events that we do, but we have a very clear focus. All the events that we do, all the things that we do, we like it when others grow. It's also another Jewish philosophy. Help your partner become richer than you, because then when you need help, it's just a phone call away. So IACC wants to make its members more successful, more prosperous. That's what we are trying to do as a chamber. We are here to serve those businesses and help them grow. That's what we are there for. So join us and let's win together. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Enjoy your tea. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I request Pallavi ma'am to come on and give the book to Shavani ma'am, President I Hubli, for her all the support. Thank you, ma'am. I request everyone here, present here, thank you for listening. We can have a photo session now with everyone joining here, standing here, and have a small snap with all you. Thank you. And we can join with an high tea later on.